Hello there, one and all, and thank you very much for tuning into episode 579 of Love at First Scent with me, Persolaise, live on YouTube as always. Whether you're watching the live or you're watching the recording, you are very, very welcome. And now I'm going to take a deep breath and say that we can sort of slow down for a bit, not only because this is going to be hopefully a fun top 10, but also because this is going to be the final episode for a while. We have made it through to the end of the current season, the spring-summer 2025 season of Love at First Scent. Ooh, lots of comments coming through. I win, says Yvette. Yes, you do. First comment, well done. I made it live, says Daniel. Finally, Jacob or Jakub says hello. My dear Aurora says hello again. Looking forward to seeing you doing the same pose as Kermit at some point. Can't believe I made it, says Daniel. Well, you have. You're really here. Welcome. Omar says modern retro. Ula says love the theme, Mr. P. Well, hopefully you will love the video. Everything is modern retro these days, says Matthew. Am I the king? Why do I get a crown? Says Tool. Oh, please don't tell me that. Well, I'm pretty sure I've disabled that. It actually says, it says here, I've turned off the leaderboard. Turn it on to start claiming my points. Well, maybe I can only turn it off so much. We're just ignoring the top fans thing, folks. Gonna miss the streams, says Millard. Keep us posted about your discoveries in summer. I will do my best. So the idea is that if I don't give myself a block of time over the summer to get on with some other commitments that I would like to give some time to, then it just won't happen. And it's also, I think, just nice to have a break, and helpful, I should say, and ultimately productive to have a break from doing these sorts of things and to just wear the sorts of perfumes that I want to wear just for my own pleasure, because it means that I can come back to this kind of thing fresh and rediscover some scents maybe that I hadn't worn for a while, and help to calibrate and put things in perspective. Yes, it doesn't matter when you watch this. Please keep the comments coming, keep the questions coming. I usually manage to answer them at some point over the summer. I will also set up a few some Substack posts to pop up over the course of the next few weeks, including, I'm pretty sure I will go ahead with this one, including a new perfume series of posts on Substack that I think might be interesting to explore. So all of that will be coming your way, so do consider subscribing to my Substack. If you would like to find out how you can support my work, you should be able to see a link to my Ko-fi page in the video description below. But I think we need to get going. So it's a top 10, one of our fun top 10s. We like to do these every now and then. I don't think we do them often enough. And this is very, very kind of indirectly inspired by the new Fantastic Four film that's coming out next week, the Marvel Comics, the Marvel Studios Fantastic Four film. And when I say loosely, I really do mean loosely. This is not going to be one of those superhero lists. We're not doing X-Men or anybody else. But if you've seen the trailer for the Fantastic Four film, you may have noticed that it appears as though it's set in the 60s, but it's a kind of alternate 1960s. So it's a 1960s where the technology was quite advanced in comparison with what we really had in the 1960s. And so I suppose we could say it's a kind of ironic, knowing, nudge nudge, wink wink take on the past. Retro with a twist. Retro very much seen through modern eyes, as retro always is, of course, but presented in a kind of skewed way. I thought this might make an interesting theme with which to end our season. And at first I thought it would be really, really difficult to put together a top 10, bearing in mind, obviously, that I can only use what I've got. And yes, I do have a sizable perfume collection, but I don't have everything, obviously. I'm not sure that our definitions of ironic align, says Gavin. Well, let's just go with it. Let's, isn't it ironic that there are different definitions of ironic, as Alanis Morissette may have, but didn't sing. For her, wasn't a rainy day ironic? Oh, Rachel, that's very, very kind. Thank you very much. Modern Retro, cheers to this theme, after my own heart with this one. Well, please let me know what some of your choices would be. So, I started coming up with a list, but thank you very much, Rachel, by the way. That's really kind. But I decided, and I get that this aspect of it is very, very, very subjective, because I can't actually get into the heads of the perfumers who have made these scents. But I decided that what I would try to include are scents where it feels to me, or it smells to me, as though the perfumer has very, very deliberately and very knowingly done a kind of retro homage, or has referenced retro codes, rather than trying to make a beautiful, attractive, pleasant, old-fashioned perfume, old-fashioned in inverted commas perfume, and present it with no acknowledgement whatsoever that they are presenting something that actually, in terms of its style, harks back to something from decades ago. So, and I think if we start, you've seen what's in the thumbnail, if you've seen the thumbnail, and this interesting, and obviously they all had to be relatively recent. This scent is by far the oldest on the list, and this one is already, it's 25 years old, which is interesting. It's already a quarter of a century old. So in a way, this is a kind of very meta retro. But I think this sums up what I was trying to capture best. It is, of course, Frederic Malle Lipstick Rose from Ralph Schwieger. And let's have a spray. There are a few Ralph Schwieger compositions I could see fitting this theme, says Offenlecht. Yeah, and I'm with you on this one. But tell me which ones you would include. And please, by the way, do keep the ideas coming, because I think it would be interesting sharing views and opinions on this one. So, Lipstick Rose never ever fails to make me laugh. And I think it's a genius. It's so beautiful. And it's interesting that even though it's 25 years old, it still works as retro. I wonder if 25 years ago it came across as more retro than it does now. So they have to be, they're all from this century. And I think after Lipstick Rose, the oldest one is from 2013. So I jumped from 2000 to 2013 because I really wanted them to be as contemporary, as recent as possible. For those of you who haven't smelt Lipstick Rose, it is probably one of the most perfect lipstick, as in violet rose perfumes ever. I mean, it's so beautiful. Do you remember a few years ago there was a kind of short-lived trend for people harking back to the 50s, and women baking 1950s style cakes and wearing 1950s style dresses, and kind of putting aside the dubious sexual politics of the time. I think when we're doing this kind of video, we do have to put aside a lot of dubious stuff from the past and be careful that we don't look at bygone eras with glasses that are excessively rose tinted. But this is all in the spirit of fun. Gavin says, why this and not Monsieur with its modern take on Edwardianism? Well, it could have been Monsieur. I mean, absolutely. So there's a great suggestion from Gavin. Chanel's Monsieur, by the way, in case you're wondering. That's another really, really good rose-violet combo. Probably more powdery than this one, I think. Monsieur's not on the list today, so you can have Monsieur. And it's sweet, and it's charming, and it makes you laugh, and it is dressed in one of those pinched waist 1950s style dresses, but it could absolutely be worn by a man, both the perfume and the dress, I suppose, and it's just utterly charming. And to go back to the list, I would say that when Ralph Schwieger made it, he absolutely knew that he was referencing codes from the past, and he wanted us to know that he knew, if you see what I mean. And I think that's the sort of irony that I'm hinting at. This perfume, when it came out, I don't think was trying to present itself as an edgy uber modern, contemporary 21st century perfume. I think it was saying, let's look back to the past and have a bit of fun with it. Of course, the trick is as well to do that, but not make the thing so old-fashioned that it just feels like a kind of pastiche and just stays bogged down by the past and doesn't have anything of relevance to say to the present. And I think it does. That's why it's genius perfumery. And I suppose the difference on a technical level probably comes down to the use of certain materials, and maybe one day we might get Frederic Malle or Ralph Schwieger on here and ask them what it is that we are smelling in here that makes us realise that actually this was made in 2000, released in 2000, as opposed to 1955. But I've said this before, and it's relevant here. To me, there's a certain lightness, there's a certain luminosity. The modern versions of these sorts of perfumes, so these modern retro scents, don't seem to be excessively weighed down by the heavier materials. So the violet here is heavy. It is quite sticky. The rose is heavy and very, very crimson and sticky, and yet the whole thing feels lifted by light, as it were. And it's really, really beautiful. It's got a lovely patchouli thing in there as well. Beautiful musks. It's just stylish and charming and classy. Gavin says, is Malle not the most modern retro line? Iris Poudre, Eau de Magnolia, Superstitious, Musc Ravageur, Parfum de Thérèse. Yes, I wondered about Parfum de Thérèse, but I didn't include that one because actually that was an old perfume that was reissued. This is, we could have this debate, and we should have this debate during the course of this video. So keep the comments coming. And also keep your suggestions coming, please. What else are people saying? Gichunk says, Musc Tonkin of Parfum d'Empire has a powerful retro vibe to me too. That's a good one. It's not on the list, but there is another one from the brand coming. EB says, I enjoy Monsieur, but it doesn't strike me as humorous, very glamorous. No, and that's an interesting thing to compare as well. Monsieur never makes me laugh. In fact, I find Monsieur actually almost sort of gothically sad in a way and world-weary, whereas this is joyful and endearingly juvenile somehow. Okay, so that's our first one. Let us go to something a bit of a palate cleanser, something a lot lighter from 2024. A brand that very, very definitely plays with retro codes. We could have a long debate, which we better not have because we'll be stuck here for ages. We could have a long debate about whether they are presenting retro codes ironically, knowingly or not. But anyway, let's go with it for today. So the brand is Bienaime, and this is their Monsieur from last year, composed by the extremely talented Patrice Révillard. And this is very, very, very different from Lipstick Rose. This is in many ways a classic cologne. But it's, what I find it interesting is that it isn't merely, and it isn't sort of easily, accessibly, pleasantly citrusy. It's got some bite to it. It's got some edge to it. So the citruses are in there, to my nose, a nice sort of sharp biting lemon-lime combo. But then it also goes right into herbs, very, very dry herbs, maybe something like tarragon, thyme, rosemary. And I think that's what, to me, makes it feel a bit old school. And beautiful musks in the base. I mean, really, really nicely done cologne, powdery musks in the base. Each time I spray this, people sort of, stop and say, that's really lovely, what is it? I think, generally speaking, in terms of our tastes in food, apparently in terms of our tastes, for instance, in alcohol. I mean, I don't know very much about liqueurs, but it seems that a lot of liqueurs that used to be more bitter, more sour in the past have had their sweetness upped. I think our colognes are also becoming sweeter. So whereas in the past we may have had a cologne that emphasized lemon and bergamot, perhaps now it emphasizes mandarin, which is of course a much sweeter citrus note. Jean-Claude Elana's Bigarade for Frederic Malle was an interesting turning point there, because that does tend towards sweetness, whereas if you think of colognes from bygone years, something like 4711. That's quite sharp, and this has got that sharpness, but I think that's what makes it attractive, and it's what makes it suave in an old school way. I think suave is the word that comes to mind quite frequently with this one. Maria says Bienaime yes, and Oriana says called it. Oh, well done. Ryan says I bought an all-out retro the other day on eBay. Crizia Teatro alla Scala. Oh, right. Very regal stuff. Beeswax, incense, carnation. Very dramatic scent. Quite rare also, allegedly. But that's also, I mean, that's I really, really forget. I remember it being around, but is that 90s or so? I can't remember when it came out. Perhaps you can help me out. Oriana says, got myself a vintage Jardin de Bagatelle. Oh, well done. What a blast from the past. See, I think Jardin de Bagatelle was actually a bit retro when it came out. Did it ever smell like it sort of came from the 80s, or did it always sort of seem to hark back to the 60s? Alien on Beauty says, how did I miss you when making this video? My favourite type of perfume. Well, you're here now, so you're very welcome. Eco Jock says, the triumvirate of tarragon, thyme and rosemary gives a very barbershop scent. Is that true, or is that wishful thinking on my end? I think that is true, but I think the other crucial element in the barbershop type thing is orange blossom, I would say. And maybe there is a suggestion of that here as well. Hearing Modern Retro says, Riz, made me think about the recent Tom Ford Black Lacquer. Ah, okay. So, we're 2 down. Let's keep going. What should we do next? Let's do one for which... I've got a couple for which I don't have full bottles, but one of those is quite strong. So let's do this one for which I don't have a full bottle. From 2017. Composed by Jan Vanier, whose work we like very, very much on this channel, as you know. A scent that I didn't know a huge amount about until recently. I wonder if you'll agree with me when I say that this has got a kind of modern retro feel. From the brand Frassai, this is Jan Vanier's Blondine. EB says, YSL Paris could have been on here too. That's a perfume that makes me laugh with its audacious retro aesthetic. Yes, but that's from the 80s, okay? So we're trying to do scents that are relatively modern, relatively recent, and hark back to the past. So this is Blondine, Jan Vanier, Frassai. Here we go. Ooh, big smile from Rachel for Blondine. But do you agree? Do you agree that it has a kind of retro feel to it? Right, let's smell. See, I wondered about this one. Because I couldn't quite decide whether it kind of fits that, in inverted commas, knowing/ironic feel, and whether Jan Vanier is actually just sort of using codes from yesteryear to create a modern, beautiful scent. But in the end, I thought, oh, in the interests of shaking things up, let's have a sort of brand that's relatively new to this channel, and I wanted to include it because it is just lovely. It starts off powdery. Now, one person that I spoke to said that they reckon it is the finest modern reinterpretation of Guerlain's Mitsuko that they have ever smelt. I am not sure I would have kind of gone down that sort of comparison myself, but I think I get it. See, to me, it's a scent that works slightly differently. So rather than doing a kind of fruity chypre note at the top and going into mosses, it actually seems to start off, to my nose, a bit more ambery and a bit more powdery. But it's got the grandness of Mitsuko, and it's got the seriousness of Mitsuko, and the richness as well, in a way. I mean, this, see, if that one's, if Lipstick Rose is the 50s and Bienaime is, I don't know, the 40s perhaps, this really does seem to have the ghost of the 20s in it. I can't remember what the brand itself actually said about it. Once upon a time in a faraway land, a fair and gentle princess grows up, beloved by her father, surrounded by precious jewels, exotic fruits, and mouth-watering dainties. When left behind in an enchanted forest by a deceitful coachman, Blondine is captivated by the most beautiful flowers she has ever seen. Rejoicing in their profusion and delighting in their perfume, she commences to fill her hat and pockets with them until she finds herself further and further away from home. A fragrant tale of alluring florals, decadent sweets, and enigmatic musks, where courage and hope are the key to living happily ever after. Here, Blondine's story begins. I'm not sure I've read that description before. And the notes are green mandarin, pear leaves, so I suppose the pear could be the peach in a way, salted butter caramel, tiger lily, ashoka flower, cocoa, castoreum, and blonde musks. And see, I also get a lot of the feel of Dune, Dior's Dune, which I adore, as you know. And maybe that's in the kind of green, slightly fruity, cocoa chocolatey feel that comes through. But it is beautiful. It is really, really lovely. Rachel says, I feel like Rodrigo Flores Roux is the best perfumer for modernising retro codes. Oh, hastily checks to see if there is a Rodrigo. I know what you mean, but there isn't a Rodrigo here, because I think Rodrigo is also really, really good at making everything modern. There was one of his that nearly made it, but when we get to number 5, I'll go through the bubbling under ones. There was one of his that nearly made it. But I think he takes retro codes, but he makes them really, really modern. I don't think he wants to be seen as having made a retro perfume, if you get what I mean. Although maybe there are some that he's made for Le Galion. I'm not over familiar with that range. Another one to add to my list. EB says, I agree, Rachel. I was thinking Ella or Aya from Arquiste with a definite disco glamour. Yeah, that would have been a good one. I mean, then I suppose you could also have said Elle, which is like the sort of retro Kouros, isn't it? Often says, I want to mention Histoire de Parfum 1740 as well. What an incredible Chypre-ish scent. There were a lot that I could have included here. Let's keep going. I've seen this one pop up quite a few times in your comments, so I think we should do it. This is from Frank Volkel, and it's from 2013. I think one of the best things we've ever had from this particular brand. It is Le Labo's Ylang 49. I noticed some of you mentioning their Myrrh, which I think was Myrrh 55. Also would have been a good one, but I prefer the Ylang. I think the Ylang... I remember the first time I smelt the Ylang rushing with it to Madame Persolaise, because Madame Persolaise used to be a big fan of the original Femme from Rochas, the Edmond Rudnitska classic that was then reworked, I think, by Olivier Cresp. And I presented this to her and I said, what do you think? And she said, ooh, that's definitely got a bit of a Femme thing going on there. And I absolutely think it does. This smells like Aromatics Elixir, says Ryan. Well, and Aromatics Elixir owes quite a bit to Femme. I mean, they're all related, those sorts of quite kind of thick, dense Chypre type constructions. I mean, this has got... okay, there is an Ylang Ylang note in there, I suppose, but it's also really, really mossy, really heavy on the patchouli, lots of rose in there. And the very first time I smelt it, it made me think that it was very, very beautifully feline. And I still think that now. It's got a real purr to it. I forget when the original Femme was made, but to me this feels like this feels like the 60s. This feels like 1960s hair, 1960s avant-garde fashions. It's really, really nice, really, really beautifully done. But also something about it quite knowing. And I think Frank Volkel is good at that, trying to present both sides of the kind of stylistic coin at the same time. Often Lith says the new Ney 1+1 Ansongo referenced Aromatics Elixir in the blurb. I didn't even know there was a new one. I need to try it. That's a really, really interesting range, that one. I quite liked it on first impression. Ooh, I need to smell it. EB says, wow, I would not connect this with Femme. I don't detect much of the stained glass fruit. Ylang 49 is a treasure. See, I do get that kind of sheep fruitiness, but that's fine, never mind. And Rachel says, I need to revisit this fragrance, thanks for the reminder. May says, speaking of feline, the Cartier comes to mind. Yeah, and that's one that nearly made it onto this list. So let's do number 5 so I can tell you what else nearly made it onto this list. Alex says, Gichunk, it's a bit different, but Heavenly Olivier Cresp did a very good job. Oh, so you're talking about the reworked Femme. Yeah, a lot of people like that one, but I think it was Cresp who added the cumin note, I believe, which was the biggest difference. And let us do... what should we do next? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's do this one. From 2017... There's going to be another one. No, that was Blondine. We did Blondine from 2017. From 2017, from a perfumer, a self-taught perfumer, very, very talented perfumer, UK-based, who has managed to make a name for herself for giving us really great, modern, totally contemporary feeling compositions, but also really great old school type compositions. This is one of my favourite things from her that she's ever done. It is, of course, Liz Moores, the perfumer at and founder of Papillon, and from 2017 this is her Dryad. Woozy says Papillon, and you are right. Now this is... we had to have a green scent on here, right? This is good stuff, and if you haven't checked out Liz Moore's work, please do. I think you will love it. Particularly those, the sorts of people who watch this channel will love it. Love Dryad, says Rachel. Very much like Vol de Nuit, says Ryan. Yeah, you're not wrong there. Jacob says, I was afraid he was going to say Roger. Prashant says, good evening from India. Good evening, sir. So great to catch you live after over a year. I did actually think, I don't think I've seen your name for a while, but I don't like to kind of say to people, where have you been? Anyway, you're welcome back. And Woozy says, I would have picked Salome. Now that is a beautifully retro jasmine. Yeah, you could have had that. But you see, I don't have a sample of Salome. I do have to go with what I've got. Sean says, got back from working in Harrods today and saw your photo up on the perfume cases next to the perfumer room. Really? I was there the other day and I didn't see it. Oh, if you're there again, would you mind maybe taking a picture of that, please, and emailing me? Because I'd like to have that as a souvenir. This must be following on from the Amouage and Chanel events I did. I didn't see that, but thank you very much for letting me know. Have you done top 10 camp perfumes? Says Gavin. No, all top 10 camp perfumes would basically just be me. I would be in every single position on the top 10 camp perfumes. Anyway, Dryad. Dryad is green, really, really gorgeous galbanum note at the top. And it just feels like quality. It's just so good. You sort of want to sink your nose and your teeth and your face into it, and you just want to smell of it, and you want to smell it. And the florals that come next are, clovey, carnation, and it's a really, really beautifully abstract bouquet. You get a hint of rose, and then you're going into a really, really nicely done metallic, dry, kind of dark brown, green, mossy base. It's really, really good, and it definitely smells like something that that is kind of coming at you from the forest, from a forest floor, or maybe descending on you from the sky above the forest. It's really fantastically complex and well worth checking out. Lieselot says, hello Persolaise, it has been over a year for me too. Yeah, I don't remember seeing your name for a while. From France, in the salt marsh where I work on the Atlantic side. Ooh, well, very nice to see you again. Rachel says, I feel like this theme could be top 100. Well, we are definitely not doing top 100. Gichunk says, Eris Parfum should so be here. My guess is Mabette. Something from Hiram Green, says Oriana. See, we could have had a Hiram Green. Okay, so we've done 5. Now let us look at the ones. Now, Mabette, I wanted to include on the list, but I haven't got a sample of it. I wondered about Green Spell from Eris. Eris, one of the things that actually characterizes Eris is a sort of knowing retro feel. Delta Venus has got a very knowing retro feel to it. Scorpio Rising to some extent. But I also wanted, as I say, to include a few other brands. Like, I haven't really included Frassai in any top 10s. I tend not to include Papillon in top tens, but yes, you're absolutely right. So my bet could have made it here. The artiste that I wondered about from Rodrigo Flores Roux was Boutonnière number 7. It is 7, isn't it? Not 9. I always get mixed up. That's a really, really nicely done gardenia. Other people have mentioned Elle and Eya or Ella. Somebody mentioned Cartier's La Panthère. That would have been an interesting one to do. I wondered about French Bouquet from BDK, which is a kind of grand aldehydic floral. I wondered about the Iris de Gris from L'Artisan Parfumeur by Quentin Biche. I also wondered about Christine Nagel's Berenia for Hermès, but I think in the end I decided that that actually wasn't sort of retro enough, and it was trying very, very hard to be quite modern. And Francesca Bianchi's Etruscan Water was another one that I considered. So there were a few. What are you folks saying? Oriana says, Mr. P reviewing Astrophil and Stella, just a thought for later this year. I came across them at Aix-en-Provence, and I tried to get some samples and I couldn't, and I was then subsequently told there was no way they could send me any, and so then that kind of stalled. That's where we got to with that. All great choices, says Rachel, thank you very much. I agree on Berenia, too much a perfume of our times, says Gavin. Omar says, was literally about to mention Berenia. Yeah, no, it's an interesting one, but in the end I decided not retro enough. Alex says, the Black Jade by Lubin that I wear today would be also perfect for this top 10. Oh, I don't know that one. I need to check that one out. Gichunk says, I just bought Iris de Gris from L'Artisan after your review and after having smelt it, and it is great. It really is great, isn't it? And I have all of you to thank for my bottle of that, so once again, thank you. What about Gallo, says Woozy? I don't find that particularly retro. I love it. I adore it. I think it's one of the best things that Christine Nagel has ever done, either for any brand. But I don't think it's all that retro. Anyway, what is happening at the half-an-hour mark is that you are watching episode 579 of Love at First Scent with me, Persolaise, the final episode for this season, where we give ourselves a break from each other for a few weeks. If you haven't already subscribed to this channel, please do consider doing so. Click on the little bell so that you get notifications about new videos. You can find out how you can support my work if you go to the Ko-fi page in the video description below. You should also see a link to my Substack. Several perfumey Substacks coming your way in the next few weeks. And also, if you enjoy this video, please give it a thumbs up. Shansia says, so why didn't La Panthère end up on the list? I've been sitting on purchasing it for some time next to you, and everyone but you seems to describe it as retro. No, I mean, I do think it has got a retro feel to it, but this is a top 10. It's a great scent, and you should be able to see my review of a few versions of it over on Persolaise.com. Go to the perfume index and search for Cartier, but I had to choose 10. I think it's a wonderful piece of work, and underrated. Okay, so next on the list, let's do this one because I don't have the proper bottle for it, but you can look up online what the bottles are. This is from 2024, from a brand that, we could have selected a few things from it, but this is from Parfum d'Empire, which means it's composed by Marc-Antoine Corticchiato. This is his Bel Amour d'été from last year. And this is also a big gardenia type floral. Here we go. I know a lot of you out there like this one and were a little bit put out that I didn't include it in my list of the best of 2024, so it's taking its place here on this list. This is it. I mean, it's a genius name because it is summery. It's summery. Summer in a hot place, as opposed to summer in Australia. It's filled with the light and radiance of the sun, but you've also got the sun beating off a beautiful golden sandy beach, and you've got just subtly, slightly coconutty, suntan lotiony inflection, and then the big thing is this sort of great big hip swaying tropical gardenia feel. Which is really, really nicely done. Maybe not as retro as some of the other ones that we've talked about here, but it does seem to speak of the past in a way. I mean, maybe this is kind of 1970s heading into big hairspray 1980s. Well, I'd love to know what you folks think of it. Kichunk says, gardenia with a masculine spicy twist. It is impossible not loving it, that cumin. Oh, I suppose you mean in this one, right? I guess you mean in this one. What are folks saying? That fragrance was a wild ride. Oh, I've lost track of what we're talking about now. Oriana says, would not call it retro. So good, my favourite on my list. I hope we're talking about the same perfume. May says, Alex, I feel my tastes are changing to very retro as well. Interesting. Oriana says, feels like a loved memory. I know what you mean, but and maybe that's the bit about it that makes me put it on a retro list. To me, love and summer are absolutely the perfect words to be in the name of this perfume, because it does seem to have a very, very loving core to it, and it is gloriously summery. Really excellent, really excellent work. They've got a new vanilla coming, haven't they? I think it was unveiled at some show, and maybe we'll be able to start smelling it in September. I mean, a vanilla done by Marc-Antoine Corticato would be interesting. Alex says, I adore the effect of travelling through perfume into the past. I know what you mean, so do I. X-Wagon says, first thought seeing the theme of this video is my favourite, Fleur de Cassis. Yeah, see, that would have been a good one as well. You could have done quite a few from Malle, but I try to do one per brand. Okay, moving on. This one, a few of you I've seen have mentioned, so let's do this one now. This is from 2019, composed by Antoine Maisondieu, except that it doesn't come in this bottle anymore, so I think this is the... Oh no, I've got the wrong one. Silly man. And I'm not going to be able to... Can I do this? No, I'm not going to be able to do this. Okay, so... I can't believe I've done this. Ladies and gents, pretend that this is a bottle. This is a bottle of Tom Ford Beau de Jour. It is, in fact, a bottle of Lavender Extreme. I can see it right there, but it is too far for me to reach to without messing everything up. It is, isn't it ironic, don't you think? It's like lavender when you want Beau de Jour. Okay, maybe I should re-smell this one. Thankfully, I know enough about Beau de Jour. Beau de Jour is like a really nicely done ironic take on a fougère. Is it... no worries, we understand, says Rachel. Yeah, so it is a really nicely done kind of retro fougère, and it's got that kind of barbershop feel to it. It's got the herbs in the right place. It's got the kind of hay-like feel of the coumarin in there as well. And it really showcases Tom Ford's love of 1970s codes. It's very hairy-chested. You know, it's got a moustache. I think the first time I reviewed it over on Persolaise.com, I may have used an image of Robert Redford to go with it. It's very kind of Robert Redford, unbuttoned shirt, big moustache, big aviator sunglasses type feel to it. Really nicely done. It now comes not in a bottle like this, in a more sort of standard line Tom Ford bottle, and I'm glad that they've still got it in the range. But seeing as we've got Lavender Extreme here, I know what I could do, because there's no way of doing this inelegantly. If I can fade to black and come back, so just give me a second. Aha. As if by magic. How did you like it? Let's smell it now. Hopefully you can still hear me. No, we need to smell this one. Right, so this is the bottle that it first came in. It is now in a different sort of bottle. Okay. Ah, yes, here we go. Commercial break, says Rachel. Yes, standing up inelegantly and reaching over break. Yeah, well, you know, I stand by my description. It is an old-fashioned, but very knowingly so, fougère and lavender. I mean, interesting that I picked up the lavender, because it's got a really nicely done lavender note to give it that kind of classical fougère feel. Lavender, geranium, lots of nice herbs, echoes of Brut, echoes of YSL Rive Gauche pour Homme. It's that kind of fougère. And it's great, but at least it gets to go here because I want the bottles to have their rightful positions. That's going to be a useful trick for me to remember. I could kind of like I could get up, fade to black, change, keep you all guessing. Okay. You could have left as Mr. Kermit. Yeah, I could have. Okay, we have got 3 to go, so let's do this. Next up then, let us go to another one by Ralph Schwieger. Now, somebody, I forget who it was, said that we could have had a few Ralph Schwiegers on here. Please tell me which ones you think we could have had. But the other one that I'm going for is from 2012, and it is his beautiful, beautiful Afternoon of a Faun for Etat Libre d'Orange. I mean, I love this perfume anyway. It's one of my favourites of all time, and certainly one of my favourites from Etat Libre. How can we arrange these here? I mean, this is... The blackout is quite dramatic, says Spinach. I know. Maybe we need to do a fade. Have you ever seen Three Colours Blue? Try again. Three Colours Blue, Krzysztof Kieślowski's films from the 90s, you know, the trilogy, Three Colours Blue, White, Red. He makes really, really intriguing use of fades to black in Three Colours Blue. He fades to black, but then comes back into the same scene. So the fade to black doesn't do what it normally does in film language. I think we need to do the same sort of thing here. You know, I'll just fade to black and just come back and finish the sentence I was in the middle of. This is... Oh, Alex says, I stocked this up to 3 bottles. I never want to be without it. But then, see, I don't blame you. I mean, it is beautiful. This is like a kind of Immortel Chypre. I remember when it came out thinking that it was the first time in ages that somebody had done a really, really convincing modern Chypre. Because to me, this smells beautifully rosy and herbal and green and patchouli-like, or not patchouli-ish in the base and mossy, but it also has running through it the kind of carnal funkiness of Immortel. It's great, you know. You may find it hard to believe that I wasn't around when Nijinsky was doing his gyrating on the stage in the... what was it? Was it Rites of Spring? I suppose, yes, it was in that one. But I can just imagine that. I can imagine a really kind of lascivious dance being inspired by the smell, or the smell, you know, or the dance inspiring the smell, and vice versa. It's also a perfect evocation of a faun, because there is something human about it, but there's also something very, very animalistic about it. It's just wonderful. I have no idea how it's done for the brand. I mean, I know that the likes of us really adore it, but I don't know if it's considered to be one of the more successful ones for the brand or not. What are the other Ralph Schwieger ones, though? Gichang says... Oh, sorry. May says, I've never experienced this one. This is so powerful and radiant when I wear it, says Milad. EB says, I have a hoarder tendency for my favourites too. I have 4 bottles of Sarah Jessica Parker Stash as of a month ago. Interesting. Where can I get a bottle of this, says Daniel. Maybe start with the Etat Libre website and see if they're able to send it to you. Stocking 3 bottles of Afternoon of a Faun, says Woozy, is admirable, but apparently when I stock 3 bottles of Sécration Magnifique, it's weird. Did I say that? If I said that, I'm really, really sorry. I mean, it's. I mean, you know, obviously we stock what we like. If I said that, I'm really sorry. I can't believe I would have said that. Would I have called you weird? I don't think you're weird, Woozy. I think it's great that you are stocking up on the things that you like. Gavin says, which Muppet is it? What, this one? Afternoon of a Faun? I don't know. Alex says, no, of course you didn't say that, says Woozy. Phew, I was getting really worried. I was thinking, geez, did I really let myself go to the point where I called somebody weird on my channel? Alex says, white dresses, Debussy playing in the background, a late summer afternoon, and people drinking tea on a lawn while the sun sets behind the trees. Wonderful description. Prashant says, never smelt it. Sadly, I'd love to give it a try, but that Immortel note always kept me away. No, you need to smell it. You need to smell it. Okay, we have got 2 to go. This is Maybe I should do this one last because this is so huge, but never mind. And I still don't know the perfumer for this one, but this is from the UK-based brand Jouissance from 2024. This is their La Bague D'O. Now this kind of takes us to the 18th century or the 19th century, whichever century Dangerous Liaisons is set in. When is it set? Is it 18th century? This is boudoirs and powder puffs and debauchery and Madame de Merteuil and all of that kind of jazz. And Gavin, your comment, I love this, your comment is held for review. Now, if I show your comment, does that mean I'm going to get banned from YouTube? There you go. I'm going to show your... Oh, I've clicked on show and nothing's happening. There you go. So, folks, if you don't appreciate Gavin's comment, gang up on him. This is... This one makes me laugh as well. But this is filthy, gorgeously filthy. Is this the one where I kind of started, when I first reviewed it, I started making references to like Eyes Wide Shut and heavy velvet drapes and that Eyes Wide Shut music playing and opening up doors and kind of seeing things that you'll never be able to unsee. I mean, it is filthiness in the extreme, but it's also fantastic, and it's also somehow joyful and very, very, I'm going to say tongue-in-cheek, and now I'm going to wish I hadn't said tongue-in-cheek, but I have said tongue-in-cheek. And fantastically powdery, rosy, floral, and also really, really, really kind of strong, funky, civety, animalic note in the base. And beautifully done, and highly wearable, eminently wearable. EB says, weird, it shows on mine. I guess you mean the comment. Oh, I don't understand. YouTube's being funny today. Gichunk Gavin says, it is the story of O based on fragrance, compared to which Eyes Wide Shut is tame. Well, I shall have to read it one day. It is great. The perfume is great fun. So this is our naughtiest retro scent. And then finally we go to somebody who has actually managed to very, very successfully build his brand on a kind of retro vibe, and yet he keeps his scents beautifully contemporary. I could have had... Oh, somebody saying, Daniel says, anything from Lutin's. I wondered about the one, La Fille Tour de Fer, or whatever was one of the more recent ones that came out. But I actually think a lot of Lutin's come across as quite contemporary. But anyway, this is from Eliam Puente, from his own brand Puente, and from which year was this? I think it was last year, this, wasn't it? Yeah, 2024. This is his Chyprelia, which, has a fantastically retro name anyway. I could have done his Gallivant, a few from him, maybe. I mean, you feel free to include your suggestions. But Jacob says, will you do honorary mentions? I did, round about the half-hour mark. After we did the 5th perfume, I did a few honorary mentions. See, this is so nice as well. It's got a kind of aldehydic Chanel No. 5 feel to it. It's got a gorgeous rosy, jasmine-y heart. It's got green stuff happening at the top, maybe galbanum, and then it also comes at you with a very, very substantial, sophisticated, utterly convincing kind of patchouli, mossy base. And yet, as I've said so often about Eliam's style, it is absolutely radiating light. It's a kind of retro prism with light being shot into it and then just coming out in every single direction, so that it never ever feels anything less than limpid and charming and weightless and easy and graceful. There is nothing at all that is clunky about it or gawky or ungainly. And how he does that, I think, is a testament to his talent. I'm sure it's also to do with the fact that he's very, very good at selecting and dosing natural materials, but it's more than just that. You know, it's more than a case of just creating a cocktail of high quality naturals. Just so luminous, so beautifully luminous. And actually, funnily enough, it's so luminous that it makes you appreciate the past, but actually realise that we always need to place our hopes on the future. So, it's been a funny old year so far, hasn't it? And I mean, it's a funny 6 months, funny 5 years. And I think that the message that comes through from Chyprelia, this kind of let us face the future with hope and with consideration and compassion, is the kind of message that I would like to leave you with as I go on my much needed break. Milad says, thanks Mr. P for an amazing season of streams. Have a nice summer vacation. Well, I mean, it's going to be vacation. There's lots of work to be done, but not perfume work. So I'm going to focus on other things. So wish me well and pray for the muses to be with me. Looking forward to the next one. Don't forget don't forget to soon 30k subscribers. Oh, I'm still a bit far off 30k, aren't I? Let's see. Yvette says, sorry I was driving, fabulous list, I have so many. Good to know. Francesca says, the most modern retro from my collection is Roberto Greco Roque. Oh, I adore that one as well. Thank you for a great list. Have a wonderful break, says Rachel. Alex says, enjoy your summer, Mr. P. Thank you very much. Enjoy every minute, says Mace. Eat a lot of gelato, says Gavin. I will try to. If I'm near some gelato, I will try to. But, folks, seriously, I've said this many times before, but it is absolutely worth saying again and again and again, because these sorts of things can never be repeated enough. Thank you very much for being here. Thank you very much for all of these comments. Thank you very much for all the interaction. Thank you for the super chats and the coffees and the support and all the rest of it. And thank you for being so genuinely thought-provoking and stimulating and making me consider things in a different light. That's why I love doing this live, because I learn so much more from you than you do from me. Thank you. Stay safe wherever you are. Be good, and I will see you before too long. Until then, maybe consider subscribing to the Substack to see the reviews that I've got popping up over the next few weeks. Take care now. See you soon. Bye.